Alright, another response video to vegan Footsoldier. So I actually tried to comprehend the categorical imperative of Immanuel Kant that he explained in his video as some background knowledge to understand if he actually made a reasonable counter argument against antinatalism. So the main point behind this Kantian logic is the idea to universalize something that is considered to be morally wrong. You have to universalize what is considered to be morally wrong and then see if it is still morally wrong. So this is what he literally said. If you wanted to know whether an action was right or wrong, if that action became universalized, would it be the right or wrong thing to do? So that's kind of the basic idea around which this logic is based on. So he gave two examples in which this logic is implemented. The first example is about lying, and it goes as follows. Is it okay to lie to someone? If everyone would be lying to everyone all the time, nobody would ever say the truth, and nobody would expect to say the truth. So nobody would be deceived. But if you can't be deceived, then nobody could lie to you, and the whole concept of a lie annihilates itself. And then there's a second example about stealing. If everyone were to steal, then everyone would think it would be okay to steal. So if you tried to steal something of someone, they would just let you take it because they think that stealing is okay, because we've universalized stealing as something which is okay. But then that's not theft, because you can't steal something from someone if it is okay for that person to take that something. So the concept of stealing annihilates itself. Okay, so given these two examples, what is the conclusion that follows out of this? Well, here is what I think is the conclusion. Initially, we consider lying, for example, again, to be morally wrong. And if we universalize lying, then it would annihilate itself, as we have seen, and so it can't be wronged anymore. The immorality of lying becomes morally justified when it becomes universalized. I guess that's the point being made. If everybody is lying all the time, then nobody could be lied to, because everybody knows that everybody is lying. So everybody knows the truth. And knowing the truth is morally correct. The fact that everybody knows that everybody is lying is morally correct because nobody would be falling into the trap of being lied to. The act of falling into the trap of being lied to is morally wrong. But that's not possible if everybody is lying all the time, if my thinking works correctly. So, conclusion, if you pick something that is morally wrong and then you universalize it, it suddenly becomes morally correct because the thing that was wronged in the first place has annihilated itself by becoming universal. I think that's the paradoxical conclusion in this way of thinking. So it's considered as bad in the first place, but if everybody does it, this bad annihilates itself. And so it's incorrect to say that something is universally bad or objectively bad, because if the bad itself becomes universalized, it annihilates itself. And so this is used as a counter-argument against antinatalism, because antinatalism considers life to be universally or objectively bad. So again, in general, I think the argument being made here, which is not my argument, is that there exists bad, but from the moment everybody becomes a bad guy, the concept of bad is annihilated, and so there is no more bad. So it is incorrect to universalize a bad. Which leads me to my response of all this. So yes, whatever it is that you universalize, it will annihilate itself as a concept. Because if one thing becomes universal, then there is no more opposite to that thing. It becomes totally singular, or in other words, it becomes non-dualistic instead of dualistic. Now, this is nothing new. I already discovered this way of thinking. In fact, it's really easy to understand that when something becomes universalized and it is being implemented by literally everyone, then there would exist no opposite to that thing. And if there is no opposite, there is no contrast. And if there is no contrast, it becomes meaningless, because you can only get meaning out of darkness in comparison with brightness. You can only get meaning out of big in comparison with small. But if literally all things were equally sized, then both the concepts of small and big would disappear. If there is no opposite thing to contrast it with, then the concept indeed annihilates itself. If there is only bad without the existence of good, then it's impossible to create the concept of bad, and so you would never even realize that it is bad. So yes, to universalize whatever is to inevitably end up with contradictions. In fact, objectivity or universalisms are inherently counterintuitive. So every single statement that claims to be objectively true is a contradiction, including the statement that every single statement that claims to be objectively true is a contradiction. And this becomes an infinite regress of the same statement that keeps continuing to contradict itself. So also you, vegan foot soldier, do you consider antinatalism to be morally wrong? Is that an objective statement? Are you universalizing antinatalism? What if everybody were an antinatalist? Well, the concept would annihilate itself and it wouldn't be morally wrong anymore. So it is equally wrong to say that antinatalism is objectively bad. So since making objective statements always leads to contradictions, what's the point of being alive and being an intelligent being that wants to understand the objective truth? Antinatalism, in my opinion, recognizes this. Thinking is doomed, logic is doomed to endlessly contradict itself by trying to make objective statements all the time. And the only way to not contradict yourself is by ending thinking or by never creating the brain that continuously creates these contradictions. But anyway, I'm going to end it right here because I guess you already have a whole bunch of commentary that you want to share. So let it all out. Let the beast go.